Depression. Is depression the same in adults as it is in children? Well, the manifestations will be different because of the life, I would imagine, the life experience of the adult vis-a-vis the one of the children. Now, for adults, because they have more life experience in their significant relationships, in their work life, in their life expectation, even the expectation that the society has of them, it will present differently. And again, even for men and women, it may be depending on the society and the community we are talking about, will present differently. So you find that what happens with men is that because depression is again not a seen condition. We cannot touch it, we cannot see it. What we look at is the signs and symptoms. And for men, generally, they tend to think in terms of visual, in terms of size, in terms of things they can see and touch and measure and what, so when they see these signs and symptoms, they will tend to ignore them the first time. So they'll try and compensate for them so that if they're feeling withdrawn, they try and rejoin the society. If they're feeling hopeless, they try and do a bit much more, to cover that feeling of hopelessness. But it still remains because you have depression and it's undiagnosed or it's and you've not not gotten the help. For women, they may talk among their friends and say, I'm actually feeling depressed, and but still that could also be a danger because of the lack of understanding we have around depression. So that we still need to designate depression differently as a psychological disorder compared to an everyday feeling of sadness. We will have grief. We will lose people in our lives. We will, especially like during this season, we will lose people and we will have grief. But grief is a normal part of being human. We need to understand that. What tends to happen with grief, again, because it can trigger depression, it's the nature of the loss. It's the nature of the loss. Like with the pandemic, we've had people who were observing the normal, social distancing, sanitizing, mask, and then they got the COVID. They got COVID and eventually died after a few days. So that complicates grief process for the ones who are left. And if they don't process it properly, which in an African context, we used to do it community-wise. And now you can imagine, nowadays, we are not even grieving, we're not grieving normally because we are not allowed, to have the regular crowds, that you have to invite people to funerals, which is unknown. In our communities, people don't get invited to funerals. They show up to be with the bereaved and also to deal with their own grief process. We may find, I don't know yet, but we may find more cases of depression after this period that needs to be looked and evaluated for the adults. Some of the triggers of, again, maybe even using the pandemic as an example, there's been a lot of job losses and unplanned for job losses, job losses already are a trigger for depression. But now this time, it's where if you could get cushioned by other people when you have a job loss, the problem is that this pandemic has disrupted the whole of society. Yeah, and what has happened as a result is that even the people you would normally seek help from would not be able to give it to you because even them, they're going through their own situation. So what happens? We may have a lot or more cases of depression post-COVID. Some significant other changes in life that make people get prone to depression. Women, we hear about the postpartum depression. I wouldn't know it as as a guy. I can only imagine how difficult that thing is because here you are with a new life in your arms, should be a source of joy, but you're experiencing depression. And what some women have shared with me is that confusion, that they're feeling depressed, yet they should be feeling joy, and yet they are also experiencing a sense of joy in holding this new life in their arms, I think it confuses the brain. It says, what do you want? Do you want joy? Do you want sadness? Do you want joy? So, and that could, if not checked in good time, should be, this is where spouses should be of actually significant support to their spouse during that time. Well, all the time when they're married, but specifically at that time, they should be of support to their spouse, because it is natural. Postpartum depression is natural. So, when we are giving information about depression, what we are saying is, let's not demonize depression. So what happens, whether it's adolescents or adults or men or women, the feeling of shame associated with depression is that some people might come and just tell you, snap out of it, just get up and do something. And that time, you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing anything, you have no energy for it, even if you know what you need to do. For instance, one of the things that helps with countering depressive feelings is exercise, but you don't feel like going. You don't feel like walking, you don't feel like going to the gym, you don't feel like going out to play. So let's not demonize it. In fact, and by doing that, because once your significant others, the people you live with, your friends and your family, if they understand that, they can be more of a support just by being there for you in a way, not to force you to get out of bed, but to help you be, in bed. This feeling of being stigmatized for having a condition that you had no say in, that you did not, choose, can stop you from getting the help that you require. So, if you feel you need help, or you feel somebody needs help, just feel free to drop a comment and we will get back to you.